We welcome you back. We had to take that quick break to allow our second guest to join us on the show. She's become more of a regular now. She's into protecting the rights of women and the girl child especially. She's an author, a journalist in her own right, a social media noisemaker, and an activist. Betty Abba. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, before you came, we were looking at the issue of the herdsmen, farmers issue, taking Benue as a case study, and also the federal government's proposition to let the military step into this whole crisis, you know, so we can all have peace. Anyways, let's go back to our feedback platform. We have more people reacting. This one says, I disagree with Mr. Adeshino's assertion that Nigerians are not cooperating with the government to resolve the unfortunate challenge of dealing with the herdsmen. All we are saying is that the federal government shouldn't be the one championing the call for cattle colonies. Let them set up a panel of professionals to chart the way for these private operators to do their business. Let the federal government concentrate on dealing with the killer elements in their midst. All right, Wesley from Edo State, why is it so hard? Please stop calling the line, please. Why is it? Okay. I'm trying to get back to Wesley. All right. Yes. Wesley from Edo State. Why is it so hard for the federal government to treat the issue of herdsmen with fairness and justice? Or is it because the president himself is a herdsman? I think that question has been asked over and over and over again anyways. But since Betty, we'll come back to you, Chuk. Since Betty is just joining us, let's hear your own view really on the issue of the military stepping into this whole thing.
I think I would say that better late than never. Better late than never. And I'm really surprised that the military or the federal government had to be railroaded into sending the military to government. To Benue State. When the Biafra boys came up, they didn't need to be told. They didn't need to be compelled. We didn't need to have like a public outcry before they send the military. Even when I'm not sure that we face a direct threat as a result of the noisemakers, Kanu, Nnamdi Kanu and his noisemakers. Then so many persons were killed needlessly. And now you have people that is direct threat to our security, to our national unity, killing innocent persons in their sleep. Destabilizing an entire state, so to say, killing the unborn, the young, the old in their sleep, simply because of their claim to their ancestral lands. And then you needed to be told to send the military. And there have been so many cover-ups, there have been a lot of talk back and front. Today Buhari would tell the political leaders from Benue State that they are your brothers and sisters, they are your brothers, you should take them in the name of God, they are fellow Nigerians. Tomorrow the DSS will come up and say they are ISIS, they are people from ISIS. And
conflicting reports.
Conflicting statements. But at the end of the day, thank God, we now have the military going to Benue. And I think, like I said earlier, better late than never.
All right. So you were on the issue of the cattle colonies. So you seem to be in agreement.
Yeah, because you know, you have to understand me. I don't like seeing Nigerians being killed. Fulani, Igbo, Yoruba.
Whoever you are, as long as you're Nigerian.
Killing Nigeria, that's not the work of the government. The government is to protect life and properties. And when people are being killed, then you are not governing. That's where I have issues with the government. They should be concerned that people are dying. And my point is, if cattle colony is not the solution, what is the solution?
The solution is ranching. That's what is done all over.
You know, that's the point I was trying to make the other time. I said, understanding Nigeria and the peculiarity of this nation, for me, it is safer to have a space of land, call it colony, call it
whatever
ranch,
you want to call it,
but being run by the government. I am not in support of somebody coming to my village and say, because you want to buy land, it means you have a territory I cannot police. You are entirely, if I build a house in Lagos, I own the house. I decide what happens inside, except I allow you in. If you are afraid that people are coming to colonize you, is it not safer that the government Buhari is there tomorrow, anybody can be there tomorrow. Jonathan was there last 2 years, and we have a Fulani, it could be another Yoruba man coming in. So you have a territory that is controlled, policed, and supervised by the government to check who gets into the colony. If you have a private ranch and I run a ranch, do you have the right to tell me who works for me? Do you have the right to say, oh, who is there? It's a private property. So that's where I say we have to be very careful on that line. Fine, ranching is the way to go. But you look at the history. What is our history as a country? We've started from grazing route. That's what we did in the past. So you don't expect that change to come because there's an existing history that we've tolerated this thing for years. So you don't expect, boom, it's going to be difficult. So in solving the problem, you look at where you are coming from. You now begin to see ways of dealing with it. Because the way my generation wants is that, oh, why are they doing, but it was there, even during the colonial masters. So there's a history. When you want to solve your problem, sometimes look at your history. It gives you an idea of how to deal with it.
Quickly,
let me disagree quickly.
On our side.
I think that as far as I'm concerned, the colony thing is a recipe for disaster, for more conflict in the country. There's a wide margin between ranching and colony. Ranching is like any other person having your own goat pen or your poultry farm.
Yeah.
You buy the place, you run the place with your money. And if you need government assistance, just like any other person who access government loan, you get it. But colony is more like an imposition. The government is requesting every state in the country or willing state to donate for free.
That's if they are willing.
Donate for free.
That's if they are willing.
Wait.
That's the point.
The state government willing is not the same as my grandfather in the village willing. The federal government is mandating as many states as possible to cede off large expanses of people's ancestral land to certain businessmen and women in the country. Why are those rights? Why is that right not extended to other businesses? That's the question that people have been asking all over, and nobody has answered that. And let me tell you, this thing is going to be given for free. Is there any guarantee that the people will agree? Back home in Benue, where I come from, we have ancestral land.
Oh, okay.
Several hectares.
Now you understand where she's coming from. Yes.
You cannot just come overnight. Yeah, I'm from Benue.
No,
but this thing can apply to any other person anywhere. So
okay.
you can't come and say, because we have plans for that land. You can't come and say because you have the overriding interest as a government, you have the power, you cede it to some business, to some people who are doing legitimate businesses, which they should fund. Any person doing business in Nigeria should fund that business. And then if you need help from government, government will give to you, but not government taking an overriding power and saying, mandating states to give them land. It's like it's a recipe for
all right, gentlemen and ladies.
Yes,
we get that. All right, we have to move on from this topic. But meanwhile, in closing, the federal government says it will not impose any solution on any state. Meanwhile, the Nigerian police and other security and military agencies have been asked to recruit more rank and file to tighten security in the troubled spots in the country generally. Okay, all right, maybe we'll take one more feedback on that and move on. Chijioke says cattle rearing is a private business. Why should one sacrifice his agricultural land for another man's business? All right, that's a food for thought. But let's move on to proliferation of street gangs in Nigeria. A serious fight broke out between rival street gangs in Ibadan, Oyo State, in the early hours of yesterday at Okeado, Itamaya, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Foko area of the state. One of the thugs was reportedly killed before the police could be mobilized to restore peace in the areas. He was allegedly hacked to death and dragged from his house to Okeado area where he was said to have been killed. Even though the cause of the fight could not be immediately ascertained, it may, however, not be far from occasional battle for supremacy between rival groups in the affected areas. Policemen have been mobilized and had arrived the hotspot to restore normalcy to the area. Now, Why we're talking about this is because this is just one out of many, you know, in recent times. We've seen areas like Agege, even in Lagos State, you know. River State is quite notorious for this cult things and all. What do you think, you know, is the reason why we have more incidences of this happening at this time?
I think I'll say that it's a direct fallout of proliferation of arms. You have so many arms,
illegal arms everywhere.
Illegal arms everywhere. Yeah. And so when people are armed, they tend to go to extremes. So this is one of the fallouts. And I believe that our political office holders have the solution to this thing. Majority, I would say, of these arms being circulated around were provided by politicians in the course of election, just for their selfish interests in order to grab power. And at the end of the election, of course, they don't go back retrieving those arms. And so these same politicians have a responsibility to see how they can reform these youths. I work with young persons in the slums, and you see many people giving up and say the slum, there are so many criminals and all of that. Nobody was born a criminal. People find themselves in situations they cannot control. People find themselves in situations of vulnerability. And these politicians feed into this vulnerability, this joblessness, this hunger, this extreme poverty. And so it is the responsibility of politicians. Because if there is no peace in the country, even the politicians, after grabbing power, they themselves will not be at rest. So they have a responsibility to start engaging this youth. We need to have youth reform programs. I say young people in the slums, and majority of the activities in the slum communities are run by NGOs. They are hardly government programs. Programs targeting young people, engaging young people, getting them busy,
empowering them.
Empowering them. So, and if we do not really focus on this youth, both the vulnerable ones, the armed ones, the helpless ones in the country. Young people make up almost 70% of our population. And if we do not engage this youth to de-radicalize them, to empower them, to rechannel their energy, their youthful energy towards positive engagement, then we'll continue to have more and more of these instances.
Okay, do you actually see this working? Because most times in terms of supremacy, it happens to be election is around the corner, and most of those politicians get to use the who is who. They know those ones that are actually vulnerable to attacks. They know the powerful ones amongst the youth. Don't you think the politicians have a stake in this?
Yes,
that's what she said.
That's the point she made.
They are the roots of this problem, and they have the solution. If they will have a change of mind to start seeing these persons as normal human beings, that could be their own children. Most of these politicians have their children abroad, and then they make use of these people, and they are killed off all the time. If they will, for a second, have the fear of God and see these young people as tools that they're using to climb their political ladder, and these people, even they will stop seeing them as disposable items, I think that we're going to have a lot of change. So I think it rests mostly with the politicians.
Let me come from this angle, because we tend to try to wait for a problem to rear its head
before we
begin to look for how do we kill it. The truth, and nothing but the truth, is that the family has failed. What they are seeing is failure of parenting. Probably the gangs, you catch them tomorrow and you arrest them, kill them, or shoot them, or lock them up. The other ones that are coming up, what happened? These same people you are seeing went through a particular system, and that system breeds these boys. So if you don't deal with the family, then you have a problem still waiting for you. Because when it gets to the point, as a parent, as a father or a mother, your child did not sleep in the house, and it's no big deal. That's where it starts. You have a son who did not sleep in your house for a night. I can't imagine any of my kids not sleeping in my house. Then where is he? Where has he gone to? He does it once, twice, 1 week, 2 months, goes off.
Then it becomes a norm.
Then it's off. We used to talk about gangs in universities. That's why we had cultism. Today, cultism has gone to the streets.
It's not on the streets. Streets are on the streets anymore.
It's a purely failure of family and the parenting. A lot of parents don't even have time for their kids. So, like I tell people, when you fail to take care of your children, if you fail to build your family because you are chasing money, no problem. You will make the money. And then you use the money tomorrow to come back and solve the problem you have created. It is a problem of family. Before you get to the government, how would any politician come and take my son or my daughter and say he wants to go and do politics?
But there are times it could be independency.
There are external factors. I believe strongly, and I really agree with you that one of the factors is the failure of families. People not caring enough, not bringing their children the way they should be brought up. But we cannot look at just one factor. There are a multiplication of factors. And we have to use like several pronged approach in order to be able to solve this. Because some of these boys are from the best of homes. Some of them are
what do you consider? What do you consider?
So there are external influences in the school.
That's the point.
On the street.
That's the point.
There are external influences all over the place. There are some people that have the best upbringing, but as impressionable youths, when you get to the school, it takes very strong will for you to be able to continue standing by the values you are raised with. Peer pressure is very strong. So let's have like a multiple approach.
I entirely agree with you. But you know the problem, what we consider, what do you call best upbringing?
Where all the morals.
But that's not the situation.
But that's not even when the child.
What they call best upbringing is that, oh, he goes to school, you make sure you buy him good buy him
clothes,
good
goes
food.
to the best private school. Yeah. Okay. So
today,
you're saying that
you flog a child in school, the mother goes there. There's a situation in Anambra State where a teacher flogged a child in school, and the child went back, told the mother, and the mother brought her boyfriend, not the husband, and they went to school to beat the teacher, and she died.
Yes.
Wow.
I read about it, yes.
Wow. So that's part of best upbringing. I don't want my child to be flogged. I'm not saying you should.
I get you. So even on the part of the parents,
yes, if you don't deal with these things, that's where they deviate.
All right.
But most of all those kids, because you get to find out that most of those kids are pretty young, and they get to leave their parents' homes. Their parents are probably far away from where they're staying. So how would you be able to parenting? How would you be able to monitor a child that doesn't stay with you?
So what